A lot of that stuff that has been wiped from her server, because when the FBI picked it up and they basically said, well, this is a blank server, all that stuff that has been wiped from her server was done to protect her. Because she was probably doing some nefarious stuff that now is going to be much more difficult to reveal. Not impossible, but it's going to take more time and it's going to be much more difficult. Because you have to do it in other ways. You're not going to be able to do it, with computer forensics. You're not going to be able to. Now people are asking, is this the same, in this server, is it the same hard drive that was used when she was using it as Secretary of State? Very good question. It's very difficult to determine whether or not that's a replacement or if that's the original. If it's been wiped clean, it's going to be nearly impossible to determine whether that's a replacement or if it was because these servers they're not factory built at, like, say, Dell. These types of servers are not off the shelf most cases. They're usually custom built for the needs of the customer. And if she wanted a server, it's called white box. You basically go to a computer, company, one of these, local computer companies, and you say you want a computer to be able to do this. And then that person will say, well, you're going to need, this type of hard drive and this type of RAM and this type. And then you say, okay, that sounds good. How much does it cost? And then they put all that together and they say, well, this unit, if we build it right now, is going to cost you X amount of dollars. And then you say, great, go ahead, build it. We'll buy it. That's a white box. It's all custom. It's not stuff that you buy. You don't walk into like Staples or order it on Amazon. This is custom stuff. Well, I mean, you might call places like, PC Connection. They might have a very nice off-the-shelf type of server for you. But I'm guessing that is not the case with this server. Because there's when you do off-the-shelf stuff, it's too easy to trace because everything has serial numbers and they know what's in what. If you buy a unit, when you go buy a computer at the store or Amazon or PC Connection or PC Junction, whatever it is, you get it from. The manufacturer has a list of serial numbers that they can go back and say, well, yes, these serial numbers went into this lot of computers. They know. So if somebody says, well, this hard drive, XYZ, did it come with is it the original of this computer? And the computer manufacturer can look at it and say yes or no. That they can say, yeah, that's what's in that's the serial numbers that went into those computers at that particular time. It matches all the other serial numbers. Or they can say, no, that one's kind of out of date. That serial number came way after we built those computers. So then But if you have a white box, well, you can't tell because everything is custom and they just pull parts from different shelves and put it together. There's no way of knowing unless the person who makes a computer actually writes down all those serial numbers and keeps it on file. And most white box computer builders don't do that. Just saying. So this whole notion that she didn't know what she was doing. Yeah, she knew what she was doing. And people around her knew what they were doing, which is why they did it. It's why they did it that way. Plain and simple, folks. This is a game that they're playing. This isn't Republican versus Democratic partisanship. They knew what they were doing. And this is a game that the Clintons are trying to play. And she's currently losing. Now, Hillary also, she's up in Iowa. But with those emails, the number of emails, now early today it was listed at the 60 of the documents or emails that were referred, that she referred or that were on her email account had potentially classified information. Well, between this morning and this afternoon, that number went from 60 to 305. Now, I guarantee you that it's going to be more than 305 by the time this week is out. So you want to tell me that this woman is, can you imagine? I mean, this is the whole issue that we had with Barack Obama not wanting to give up his BlackBerry. So you want to tell me that this woman is going to be, trustworthy in keeping America, not only in keeping America's secrets, but utilizing and using the proper equipment and protocol in preserving the secrecies that need to be preserved. Well, if she doesn't know, if she claims that she's that ignorant, how are we going to be able to, how is she going to know when, because, she's going to be the president, just like Obama. I'm the president. Oh, wait, no, it's Hillary. Hillary's president. Hillary, you can do whatever you damn well please. So basically, more than 300 of former Secretary Hillary Clinton's emails, or now over 5% of those processed so far, have been flagged for potential secret information, the State Department reported to a federal court. Now, officials insisted, however, that the screening process is running smoothly and that they are back on track after falling behind a judge's schedule for making all of the emails public. The reviewers have screened about 20% of the 30,000 emails Mrs. Clinton returned to the department, which means if the rate of potentially secret information remains steady, more than 1,500 messages will have to be sent to intelligence community agencies known in government as IC to screen out classified information. Well, why bother screening it out now? Because that information is already out there. It's been sitting out there for months. Whoever wants to see it or wanted to see it has, not only have they seen it, but they have most likely have copies of it, which brings me up to another point. There are those out there saying, well, just like everybody else out here who has a backup, you have backups of your hard drive, whether it be, offline or off-site or what have you. Almost everybody uses some sort of a backup system to save their information. I have a backup system that helps me, back up much of my information on my computers, because it'd be terrible if something happened to your computer and you can't get access to your stuff, or if you lost all your work. That's terrible. Well, there are people that say, well, look, we already know that there's a thumb drive out there with one of her lawyers that has a bunch of emails on it. So why would it wouldn't be too far-fetched to assume that if she went to people that knew what they were doing and knew how to build a white box server, knew how to set up a private email server, an email account system, that they would know all there is to know about backups. So there is a backup, something out there, and I think that personally believe that the company who was hosting this and did all this, taking care of her server, I believe that they know where the backup is, and they're using it as a potential leverage chip should the things go south on them. And they can say, hey, we know where the backup to Hillary's server is, but give us a break or immunity or something, and we'll give it up. At which time, I'm sure the FBI would probably say, okay, sure, because they're always after getting the big fish. FBI usually doesn't want to catch ensnare. I mean, they'll use the small fish, they'll use the small fish mercilessly, but they usually don't want to keep the small fish. They want the big fish. But in the end, if all they can get is a small fish, they are going to make that small fish pay if the small fish doesn't cooperate. They will make them pay big time. Now, you can call it extortion or something of that nature if you want, but it works for the FBI. And after all, part of the federal government, so they get to do that kind of stuff, I guess. I know some people don't like it. Well, they can't do that. They can't use people like that. Well, yeah, they can. And our government does it all. Does it all the time. But even Bob Woodward. This is a Newsmax story. Bob Woodward says the Hillary emails are as bad as Nixon's tapes. Now, I think that's worse than Nixon's tapes because there's much more of it. Yeah, Nixon had a lot of tapes, but for Nixon, there were no national secrets involved in the tape. Nixon was all about trying to cover up and figure, how to win the White House, basically. Was seeing what the Democrats were doing and trying to counter them. Stealing the Democratic political information. There was no sending emails or tapes, secret tapes, with coveted top secret information or to across the oceans to other governments. Other governments couldn't interrupt the Nixon tapes. But for Hillary Clinton, this stuff is going. Other governments have her. I mean, even John Kerry said, he admitted, oh yeah, there are other nations that are probably reading my emails. I have no doubt. So with that, do you think that they read Hillary's? Well, yeah, of course. We have no doubt. That's why we have certain protocols that we put into place, said Kerry. Secretary of State Kerry. I'm sure that he didn't realize that he was incriminating Clinton. Or, well, maybe he did. And this is part of the Obama administration's tactic to throw Hillary under the bus. To keep her from getting in the Oval Office and being the next occupant after Barack Obama. I'm sure Barack is trying to figure out who he can pick to be in the White House. All good dictators and potentates, they do that. They decide who the new ruler is going to be after they can't be the ruler anymore for whatever reason. Now, usually for a dictator, it's usually because, their health either gets way too poor or they just die. Kind of like Fidel Castro, he just figured his health got way too poor, so he just couldn't handle the daily rigors of being dictator. So he just made sure that he handed over the reins to, his brother, who happens to be older than him. I don't know how that works, but so far it seems to be working very well for Cuba. Fidel has earned himself a very much needed vacation in retirement, and his brother Raul takes on he's in his 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Raul Castro's in his 80s. Well, I think Fidel is over 80 right now, but Raul is his older brother. By 2 or 5 years or something like that. It's it's not that significant, but when you get to that age, it's significant enough. 83 versus 80 is that there's a big difference. But and I don't know, maybe Clinton is starting to act her. Maybe her age is catching. You're not supposed to mention a woman's age. I know that. How old is she? She's Clinton. What is she like? Wasn't she going to be 72 if she won by the time she got into office? If she won the president, so that puts her at like 70, 69 or 70, right? And that's another thing. I find it very amazing that they always tend to say on the left that, oh yeah, look at these, your guys are just too old to be president. Well, we got Hillary Clinton 70, 69 or 70. Who's going to be in her 70s by the time she takes office if she were to win. You've got Bernie Sanders, who's 78? Who's probably going to be like 80 if he wins by the time he gets into office. And they want to tell us that, Ronald Reagan was too old and that, what was it? McCain was 72, so he was going to be like 74 if he made it into office. I don't know. But we don't hear we heard all about ages back, on the Republican side, but we don't hear anything about age when it comes to the Democrats and the Democrat side. And they're far older than some of the recent GOP nominees. That's for damn sure. And those recent GOP nominees, none of them have an email scandal because none of them have seemed to have put forth emails with secretive information on them or in them that should have gone through a secure government server or government email system. Instead, they're, unlike Hillary, who put them on an open emails platform for everybody to see, which is probably what she wanted in the first place. I wouldn't put it past her. Especially for the Chinese to see. They owe the Chinese a lot of favors, the Clintons. So, yeah, don't doubt me, folks. Don't doubt me.